Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, to the Lap It Like It's Pot podcast. It's me, Monica, here today to really talk to you guys about the snooze fest that was the Portland GP, silly season, and of course, anything and all that's been happening in the news, which actually it's been fairly quiet this time around. So that's good. We have plenty to deep dive into. But before we get started talking about IndyCar, I just wanted to put it out into the ether that um, I can't believe it that it's already August and that we're in the final stretches of the final races of the IndyCar season. What in God's name happened? We literally rolled off to St. Pete, blinked, it was the 500, double blinked, and we're in the final stretches. What? And what's crazy is that we're still in F1 summer break, which feels like it's forever as well. And man, this season has definitely gone by faster than expected, which is crazy. But I've started to begin planning what I am going to do to take up most of my free time that I would be focusing on obsessing over motorsports after the IndyCar season ends. And that's going back to reading. And I do have to say that I cannot believe that we are a few months away from some of the largest books in the romantasy genre that are going to be dropping, which, if you are not aware, that is a court of ACOTAR 6, as well as not book 4 of the Fourth Wing series, which is going to be around threshing. And it's crazy to me that I restarted my reading journey a few years ago, and I met a wonderful community of women who are now in my unofficial book club. And I started reading a lot of these books a few years after they originally came out. So I had the opportunity of like binge watching a show on Netflix. I had the opportunity of binge reading a lot of these books and not having to wait years in between them to be able to see what happens next. And I have now been stuck in that, waiting for ACOTAR 6 as well as the next book in Fourth Wing. And I am literally salivating at the mouth. You're like, oh my God, we're almost there. I can finally read it. Did I take time off of work? Hell yeah, I did. I'm going to be sitting on the couch, drinking a nice, crispy Diet Coke under a blanket with my mood lighting on. And I'm going to be reading the hell out of these books. And I kind of can't wait. I cannot wait. Like, I love motorsport. I love being able to talk about IndyCar, but I cannot wait to get lost in those worlds again. And I have been going through my rereads of all of the books so I can figure out what the fuck is actually happening. And some of these are chunky. So I have been definitely binge reading through a lot of them. And it really made me realize how much I missed going into a crazy universe and have world building and character building, and really just kind of missed reading, which I'm looking forward to kind of doing after this crazy 6 race in a row header that we have in IndyCar. And then I'm going to sob at Laguna Seca when the checker falls because it's over. And not because Alex Palou is going to win the championship basically tomorrow, but because I'm going to have to wait like September, October, November, December, January, February, 6 months. That's 6 months. A lot can happen in 6 months, right? So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But that's only a few months into the off season. So for any of my listeners that love to read, please drop your book recommendations so that I can have a little book playlist of what I'm going to be reading. And maybe I'll throw it up on the Lap It Like It's Hot Instagram of like what I'm currently reading, where I am, what my rankings were, just to kind of keep the off season fun and a little maybe off topic. But I'm definitely looking forward to getting back on the saddle and reading some of these damn books, which, cannot wait for ACOTAR 6, guys. Like, it's almost time. I cannot wait. It's been years since we got anything, and I cannot wait. But enough about books and dragons and fairy tale lands and all of that in between. we should probably get started and talk a little bit about Portland and what's been happening in the neck of the woods. So we'll start off with some news just because there isn't a lot. There has not been a lot of news coming out, but today, actually, IndyCar has dropped the first 8 races of the 2027 season, which, oh my gosh, we're already planning for the calendar next year. Basically, I think we're all under the impression that this will not change, that we will all still remain with 17 races. And of course, we will still have that partnership with Fox. But I do have to say, it's kind of nice to have more of a busier pace throughout 2027, similar to what we had in 2026. And we have received it's crazy to me that it's part 1. So basically, the season goes until Detroit, which is always after the Indy 500. But we're waiting for part 2. And I do believe that why we're waiting on part 2 is because of what's happening in Chicago with the NASCAR street race and whether or not they're going to do one in Chicago. And I think that really does play on Fox and competitors and where to have the race so that, we get viewership, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to have to wait for part 2 of the season. I also think that Portland, which we'll talk about, is on the chopping block after the checker fell. So is Portland going to be off? And then what replaces Portland? Right? Will Milwaukee still have a doubleheader? DC will probably not happen again. So what's going to take DC's place? So there's a lot of question marks around kind of where those moving pieces are going to go, when the new Markham race is going to be in Canada. And then also, are we going to go back to some of the tracks that we have not been to, i.e. Iowa or maybe even Texas? I don't think we're going to be going to Texas. Or will we finally give the East Coasters something to cheer about and put a race in the East Coast? I don't know. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But right now, from a confirmed phase 1, we of course start on March 7th in St. Pete. Then we go and do a double header with NASCAR in Phoenix on March 13th. And then right after Phoenix, we go straight to Arlington for March 21st. But what's crazy is that Barber will now be in the first weekend of April. So that I see as interesting. Because then we have 2 races in April, not just the lone Long Beach Grand Prix. We have Barber, and then we have Long Beach at the end of April. We have a very long break, almost a month between Long Beach and the Indy GP, which I found very interesting. I think because of just scheduling Barber where Barber landed. Normally what happens is that you have the start of May, month of May, which is the Indy GP, and then you go straight into practice, quali, and race for the 500. So because the Memorial Day holiday is way later this year versus this year, I think they had to give those first 2 weeks in May a little bit of a break, which, if you think about it, is kind of nice, especially with what we had this year. So of course, then we have on Saturday, May 15th, we have the Indy GP road course. Sunday, May 30th is going to be the 111th running of the Indy 500. And then of course, right after the Indy 500 on June 6th, we will then go to Detroit. So now the question is going to be, when is Nashville going to fall? Where is Gateway going to fall? Road America. Road America has primarily always been around my birthday. So are we keeping that? And then we go from Detroit to Road America, or are we going to do a quadruple header situation kind of thing? I guess we're going to have to figure out and wait. But before before we start thinking about phase two, there are also two confirmed official tests for the field for the Dallara DW12s as they enter the final season of competition and will return to the Phoenix Raceway for preseason testing on February 23rd and 24th. And of course, the Indy Open test will happen that first week of May, which will be kind of pre-kicking off the month of May. So I don't know. I guess we're going to have to wait and see what happens for the rest of the season. I'm really hoping that Road America stays on my birthday because it's kind of something that I look forward to every year. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see. So, but it's nice to know that it is not even the end of the season and we're starting to see when things are happening. Another update that I wanted to share with you was around Marcus Armstrong. So, if you've been watching the pain that Marcus Armstrong has been dealing with over the last couple of weeks, I think Marshall Pruitt said it perfectly that he's been unsuccessful in his attempts to avoid the cartoon anvil for nearly 2 months in his number 66 Meyer Shank Racing Honda. And he's already suffered 3 engine failures in the last 4 races. What the fuck? Let's read that again. Marcus Armstrong has suffered 3 failures, engine failures, over the last 4 races. Which, if you think about it, right, you had the momentum with Marcus. He basically led the Indy 500 and was in contention of winning till the last lap of the race. Then you go into, that momentum and you go to being 9th at Gateway. And then you are literally moments away from winning your first IndyCar race at Road America, which being there and watching it happen is the type of heartbreak that almost equaled me watching Palou lose the 500 so many times, honestly, as a Marcus Armstrong fan. But he lost it at Road America, and that's kind of where it all kind of dismantled. When he left Gateway, he was 10th in the championship, tied with Marcus Ericsson for points. And then because he finished 24th at Road America, 14th in Mid-Ohio, 24th again in Nashville, and just so you know, in Nashville, that's where the second engine failure happened. And then also 25th on Sunday in Portland, where the third motor malfunction, he is now 15th in the driver championship. And I feel so bad for him because you're thinking about, especially let's just think of Portland, where Felix Rosenquist, his teammate, was on pole and ended up being second. And this poor man can't catch a fucking break. Like we saw how emotional he was after the Indy 500. We saw how devastated he was at Road America. And now he's just laughing it off at like, well, there is a good chance that my engine's going to go at this race. And to really put salt in an open wound, when he now goes to Canada, he's going to have to take a grid penalty for an unallocated engine. And he's going to have to, even if he's in the Fast 6, he's going to start in the midfield because of this penalty. And I just don't understand how he can still show up with, a smile on his face, because I wouldn't. I literally would be like, I'd be calling Honda and I would be like, yo, the fuck is going on with this shit? Why the fuck does my car keep exploding? Especially in Portland, he was running the Only Bulls livery too. So he had the sponsor of the race for, Todd Alt's company. And it just, oh my God, this poor man. I do have a quote from him where Marcus says, quote, "I just feel bad for myself and for the team, really. We've put in so much work, you can't believe it. We were having such a great weekend, but 3 engine failures in 4 races. It felt very similar to Road America, where it felt like an overboost. We need to figure out and come out strong in Canada." And I know that engines are randomly assigned to teams, perhaps even to the cars themselves. So it's very odd that he has had all of the issues, right? And when you think about a lot of the engine issues that have been happening at IndyCar over the last season, a lot of the issues were actually happening in the Chevy camp, where a lot of, I believe, out of all of the engine failures that we have had this year, 75, 80% of the engines that we have lost have been Chevys, but the other like 20%-ish were basically Marcus Armstrong. It's like, hey, babe, so you're the reason why Honda has a really shitty percentage. But because he's taking the penalty, I believe now Marcus's points, no matter what he grabs over the last few races, they don't count for the like constructor engine manufacturer championship. And that's insane, right? Like, I just feel like Honda needs to figure out what's going on, because I just really do think that man needs to win. He's been so close, and he's been like tasting it, and it's just like, it is really just catastrophic. And I do want to confirm that, yes, he should be receiving a 6th position grid penalty after qualifying in Canada, because he's already used all 4 permitted motors for the season. So he's definitely going to have to go to a 5th for Markham. So he's going to have that penalty, and it is confirmed that Marcus will no longer be eligible to start to score manufacturer points. So I just wanted to check that real quick. But yeah, that's true. So hopefully, even with the grid penalty, he'll get some luck. Maybe he needs to go see a monk and get kind of cleansed from the bad juju. Another couple of pieces that I wanted to talk about is around Callum Ilott. So if you are new to IndyCar, Callum Ilott was in F2 and then went over to IndyCar, and he's raced for a few teams, Prema most recently, before they dismantled. And because they dismantled, he kind of lost his seat. Callum's kind of been on the grid, just kind of there. He's been pulling the Connor Daly, which, hey, it works for Connor Daly, right? Just show up, partner with Fox, have that visibility, be around people that you know, and also the teams. And there is a rumor that he is in conversations with JHR again. But I don't know if they're going to want to get rid of Stingray's funding for someone who doesn't come with funding. So I really do wonder what's going to happen to Callum. But I think maybe we could do a quick silly season update as well, because even though nothing's been officially kind of announced, there was a lot of rumors going around Christian taking the number 9, and that the rumor in the paddock is that Christian was actually meeting with the executives at PNC. And I do think that he showed a really positive performance on Sunday to kind of have that discussion. So let's just say, Penske's set, McLaren's set, Christian Lundgaard's and in the 9 for Chip Ganassi. So let's say Chip Ganassi's set for now. I it's basically going to be down to VK and Lundgaard at this point. You have AJ Foyt Racing, which there has been no movement. But the crazy part is Santino Ferrucci's seat has been very hot. There has been a rumor that Felipe Nasr is interested in taking the 14. Let that sit for you for a second. Felipe Nasr is interested in leaving IMSA to go to Foyt, which, if you think about it, the 4 with Malukas was a Penske kind of seat. Maybe they're Penske because Nasr's a Penske driver. He'll have that 14 special funding. But if that's the case, will it be Ferrucci and Nasr? Is Ferrucci out? When I saw that name kind of cross my list, I was like, that's interesting. Because right now for the number 4, you have Kyle Collette, who is currently in the car. Shank, I think, has not officially said that they're no longer looking at Kayo. So Kaio can still be in the 4. You have Nolan Siegel, right, who is out of a seat at McLaren, looking to have that funding go somewhere. You have Stingray Rob, which I don't think Juncos is going to want to keep him. And then you have, Pearson from Indy Next, who comes with a huge budget. And then you have Sebastian Montoya from F2. His dad clearly has some connections in the paddock and IndyCar to possibly take a seat. So when I saw that Nazar was kind of thinking about the 14, I know he wants to come to IndyCar and there's no place in Penske. So I think that would be a very interesting place for him to go. You have RLL still with Graham and Louis. I don't think that's going to change. And then we have, let's go to Juncos. So Connor's kind of been thrown around to come back to Juncos, right? He gave them their first podium at Milwaukee, right? But I do think that Connor is the one and only for Dreyer Reinbold Racing. So let's take Connor out of the Juncos conversation, even though he's still technically connected to either the 76 or the 77. So if Christian Lundgaard does take the 9 from Chip Ganassi and goes to the PNC Honda, then I think that VK will remain in the 76, period, and stop. So for the 77, you have Linus Lundqvist, who's been having conversations with the team, Callum Ilott, who has been part of the team before, Nolan Siegel, Josh Pearson, are all vying for that 1 seat. So it looks like Stingray Rob is out of Juncos, especially if this divorce is happening between Hollinger and Juncos. If Ricardo is out, I do think that Stingray will be out with him. So I guess we're going to have to see. But when I look at this list, I don't see, outside of maybe going to Foyt, I don't see Rob's name really anywhere. Then we have Andretti, who, as we all know, have re-signed Marcus Ericsson. So they are ready. They think that by keeping Will, Kyle, and Marcus, it's a nice group. Nice, let's not stir the pot. Marcus has decided to show up to work and really has been doing a good job there. And then you have Shank with Marcus Armstrong confirmed to move into the 60 once Felix Rosenqvist ends the season. And then you have the 66. So with Kaio out, Shank really did say that they are looking for, while they do pay their drivers, they're looking for someone to bring a budget. So this is where things get really interesting. So you have VK, right? Brings a little bit of a budget, but not a lot, who is talking with Shank. You have Dennis Hauger, right? Those ties with Andretti have been cut. And then you have Mick Schumacher. Mick has announced that he has a very large sponsor. And will that be enough to have him go into a Shank? I do think that that's an upgrade from RLL. I am surprised that Schumacher would have a conversation with Mike Shank. I don't know how well Mick would fit into the culture there, but you have Elio. And I think Elio is an amazing mentor. I think Mike Shank is an amazing mentor. Jim Meyer is kind of the fun, he's around as well. But I think between Mike and Elio, I really do think that someone like Mick can take what he learned this year, nurture it, and then do well. So it would be crazy to see Marcus and Mick at Meyer Shank. Say that 10 times fast. Mick and Marcus at Meyer Shank. MMM. Interesting. So I guess we're going to have to see. And then we have Coin, which I'm going to be talking about Coin till February. Coin, what I love about Dale is that Dale's got a keen eye for young talent. So will he try to keep Dennis Hauger and build on the momentum that they had in Portland, right? They have flashes in the pan at Coin. They really need to work on their oval package. They need stability. So does he keep a Hauger, or does he go with someone with a budget like Pearson or Enzo Fittipaldi, and have that kind of, more of influx of cash type of driver? I do not think that Roman Grosjean will be back in IndyCar next year. I do think that Roman does not or has not provided coin what he needed. And as a senior driver, as someone who's raced for the larger teams in IndyCar, has been in F1, has been around the block, I think the expectations of performing and performing well and better than your rookie teammate is the base, is the bare minimum that you need to do. And I think that Roman struggled with that. He was kind of the Marcus Ericsson of this season where he had nothing to write home about. He didn't. So I would be shocked unless Todd Alt gives him a plethora of money. I think he's gone. I think he's out. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But that is basically the silly season update. And knowing my luck, the moment that this podcast goes live, there's going to be an update. All right. So let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about Portland. Or let's talk about what did not happen in Portland. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was literally a snooze fest. I watched it with barely any attention. Qualifying was fun with Felix getting pole, but goddamn, can Shank win a race besides the 500? It really kind of was a race of strategy and a race of gambles, right? I think we'll talk a little bit about it once we get further down, but between laps basically 1 and 20, it seemed like it was a red race. The DEG was definitely a lot lower. Drivers could go longer on the reds versus the ones that were kind of waiting out for the hards so that the reds could go off faster. But because of a caution on lap 7 brought by Graham Rahal, basically firing off track, it kind of changed a little bit of some of the strategies. Like some people would decided to go to a 4-stop versus a 3-stop. And so, but in the top, nothing really changed. Rosenqvist really was kind of really driving this race. And Marcus Ericsson really kind of came in hot in the beginning by taking P2 and kind of giving Palou a little bit of difficulty. And it seemed like the Andrettis were doing pretty good. And it seemed like that, oh, okay, we have something to watch. We have this ability of, will the Andrettis go through the field? We're watching the Christian Lundgaard of it all, of starting road course skiing. Is he going to start from the back and come to the front? And we were watching him. And then by lap 34, Marcus Armstrong is crying in his cockpit saying his engine's broken. It's broken. And Newgarden was kind of doing something. Like he was doing pretty well. He was on the alternate strategy. I think he was one of the first ones to go for the 4-stop. And Palou takes the lead by lap 39. The race is 110 laps. So, Rosenqvist then has to, basically take the lead over, which he does by lap 56. And Palou had a shitty pit stop on lap 57, 58. It wasn't the fastest stop. He went for primes and Rosenqvist goes in and Newgarden takes the lead from Palou. And then when Newgarden pits by lap 67, Palou is still leading, but Rosenqvist is really, chipping into the race lead. This is where we get to the back markers. Basically, after lap 83, when Palou pits, Will Power out of nowhere comes charging by. And you're like, oh my gosh, when Will pits by lap 88, 89, 90, he's going to have a ton of time. No, he doesn't, because Stingray Rob's in the way. And this is where the conversation really takes a shift. Back markers. If you're on the lead lap in IndyCar, you don't have to move over like an F1. And in F1, a lot of people were talking most recently about Carlos Sainz and not moving over when we got blue flags. Stingray Rob didn't have to move. He did not have to move. Okay. I'm just going to say it there. He did not have to move. But I do think that Stingray Rob shafted Will Power from potentially maybe P2, maybe going after Palou for P1 because he just wouldn't move. Granted, they're two different car manufacturers, right? They're not going to get that like Chevy, Honda, nudge, grudge kind of thing, right? But it got me thinking, right? Out of Portland for road courses, this is just for road courses, these are just my opinions. IndyCar should try out a virtual safety car type of situation for when drivers like Graham, spin off close to a barrier with an entrance or an exit, and there's no debris on the track where they don't deploy the safety car or AMR safety team. It's car hit the wall, it restarted, and it went behind the wall in its own accord. Track is clear. Reduce speed by X amount, pits are closed. I would love for them to try a VSC type of thing, even if it's just a temporary safety car or virtual safety car, whatever you want to call it. I clearly think they probably can't call it virtual safety car because, well, maybe they can, but that's very synonymous to F1. But, or even like in Le Mans, they have virtual safety cars. Why can't IndyCar have a virtual safety car? I think that they definitely should think about even piloting it. Pilot it at a place like Portland where the lap is pretty short. Or like, don't do it at a Road America when the lap's pretty long. Maybe a Mid-Ohio or a Barber, but try it out. See what happens. The other thing is, while Stingray did nothing wrong, I'm still saying that Stingray did nothing wrong. I do think that if you're about to get lapped, after one lap, or let's say not one, okay, after 2, maybe 3 laps, depending on the track, if you're literally stuck and you're, causing too much turmoil, move over. Just move over. I understand leadership circle points and all of that jazz, and drive better then. Don't be a back marker. Drive better then, but get out of the way. After a certain amount of time, just get out of the way. But in this instance, I think he let some of the drivers out pretty quickly and then just shafted Will Power. Like, Stingray, what do you have against Will Power? But by lap, basically by lap 90, you could have turned the race off and been like, all right, Palou's winning this. And I think the math is Palou would need to not start a race, not start or crash out like lap 1 or 2 of 2 races. So let's say Markham and DC. And then be last in both Milwaukee races and be in the bottom 20 for Laguna Seca for even second place to have a chance. That man's starting. That man's getting pole at Laguna Seca. That man is not starting from the back. Even if he has one race where he does not start, he will still win the championship. And I know that we're watching history, just like when Max and Red Bull were winning everything. That was historic to see that type of domination, similar to the Lewis Hamiltons and the Mercedes Prime, of these incredible drivers and incredible strategists and incredible teams doing the impossible. But if you're an Alex Palou fan, you're ecstatic. But if I'm a new IndyCar fan, let's say I moved over from F1 because shit boring over there. Shit's on, life support. If it's correct, in the US, Apple TV viewership is down like 60%. which is nuts coming from the Drive to Survive boom that we've been seeing since 2021. I understand it can get boring. And watching the same driver get pole, the same driver win, it can get really uncomfortable really fast because you're just like, well then, Alex Palou's going to win. Oh, we're at a short oval. Maybe he'll win. Oh, no, he's not. That's great. We got one more winner. And when you think about the Indy 500 and you think about how crazy it was, God, I still remember it took me like 25 minutes after the checker fell for me to be able to feel my legs because they turned into pure jello from excitement and how, like, basically the holy shit, what the fuck just happened. And then you just kind of go, hello? Is this thing on? Oh, Palou's winning. Okay. And like Road America, great race. Palou didn't win. Gateway, great race. Indy GP, decent race. And that's the one thing I loved about IndyCar coming into this is like, give me the 2023 season. Give me Miracles winning. Give me Christian Lundgaard winning in RLL. Give me VK winning in ECR. Give me Christian Rasmussen winning in Milwaukee. I'm just sitting on the sidelines being like, Dave, when are you going to win? Marcus, when are you going to win? Graham, when are you going to win? Right? And it's sad. It's amazing, but it's also sad. And I do wonder, right, with the growth that we're seeing in Fox, with the partnership and everything, like more people are watching IndyCar than they have in the last. There are kids that are learning how to drive that are 16, 17 years old, where that was the last time IndyCar was this popular. When their parents were deciding to have kids is when it was great, banging, amazing. And we're in a time where we get to experience the rebirth of current IndyCar excitement. And I think this new car, like, it's going to be like F1 and new regs where it's going to shake things up. Maybe Palou's not going to like this car. Like Dixon struggled with the hybrid. Don't even get me started about how the hybrid ruined IndyCar, but that's a whole nother podcast for another day that we'll do in the off season. But I just want to see different drivers from different teams win like it used to be, where it's not the same, individual winning. So we're just going to have to wait and see. And my last gripe that I'm going to have is, while we keep this Fox partnership, can we please just cut away from Live Golf or whatever the fuck it's called to start the race on time? I do not care about what's happening. That's it. That's all. I know there's millions of dollars and the purse was $300 million for that golf tournament. Great. Amazing. I hate this. It's like I turn on the race and I'm like, oh, okay, snacks ready. Oh, I gotta wait 25 fucking minutes because this guy decides that he needs to do a putter in the fucking green and it's the last fucking. It's frustrating. That's, I guess, when it comes to F1, like that's the one thing I love. Even F2, outside of like the random things like track inspections or something happened in a support race with F3 or whatever, those races start on fucking time. 3:00, it start 3:00. You see the Rolex, boop, 3:00. We're starting. Not 3:27 because, someone decided that they needed to use a driver versus a putter. So I know a lot of fans are thinking that. I think we're just nitpicking at little things now because we're bored, because there's not much to really talk about. And this is an incredible opportunity to see a driver really kick ass and take names. I would not be surprised if, in the next couple of years, there will be interest in Alex going to F1. I wouldn't be surprised about that. I'm surprised that his name's not being thrown around now. That man deserves to be in F1. I think he'd be great. but he loves IndyCar and we love him. But come on, just, you got the championship in the bag. Can you at least have, your co-teammate Marcus Armstrong not have his engine blow up and maybe win? How about you guys just like swap cars? No, don't tell anybody. Just be like, hey, Marcus, here's my setup. Here's all my data. Here's Barry Wanzer. You're welcome. Merry Christmas. Thank you. Because I just want to see that. I have yet. No, that's a lie. I cried at the Indy 500. So I have cried about a winner this season. But just once. I want to cry again. I want to cry happy tears. It's literally just me poking this thing going, is this thing on? Great. We got 5 more races. Do something. So we're in Canada next week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's a good race. It's kind of like Arlington where no one's ever driven there before. And when you add that, hopefully you get some chaos, you get some, spicy moves, and it's not just a freaking processional. Nothing really happened in the Indy next race. Alessandro Di Tullio really took it home. I am not ready to talk about the shenanigans about Miles Rowe and the possibility of him not being able to have a seat next year. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not happy about it. I will talk about it when I'm ready because I don't see his name on anything. Same with Lockie Hughes. And we'll talk about that at another episode about it's a good problem to have, but we're missing out on some incredible drivers because of budgets and all of the bureaucracy that comes with IndyCar and racing in general. Tim-Mek did a great job. Thank you, Tim-Mek. I don't think you're going to win the championship unless something really tragic happens. And Nikita Johnson. Also, you have Milwaukee, which is, an oval, and then maybe Laguna Seca. So I think Tim-Mek's going to do another year at IndyCar if he's got the funding. But I think Enzo's going to move to IndyCar next year and then possibly Josh Pearson. I do feel bad for, the news about having a driver need to leave or exit a season early because of crash damage funding that was for a crash that wasn't even his fault. And we had a driver step in his place by the name of Jacob Abel. And it was great to see Abel back in an IndyCar adjacent. He definitely stepped up for the team, which is really exciting. And he drove that fucking thing to 5th. So there is a possibility that Jacob's going to finish the season in the 48 for the rest of the year, unless they find a driver with a budget that will take that seat for the remainder of those couple of races. But it was nice seeing Jacob back. I think, he knew how to drive the boots off of those cars. So he did a great job. JM Correa did awesome. There was some spiciness on track, some possible fistfights or potential fistfights. Tempers were flaring. People were getting spicy, and I think it's because we're approaching the end of the Indy next season. Some of these drivers who are ready for the next step, meaning IndyCar, are getting doors shut in their face, or they don't have enough sponsorship or funding to be able to even bring their name to the table. And I understand that some of these drivers are probably fucking pissed, fed up, and over it because they know that they're good at what they do. They're one of the best drivers on the grid, and they're not being able to have conversations because they don't have the funding or they don't have the bureaucracy to get their name across the table. And when we think about diversity in the sport, that's the most important piece, is just giving the opportunity for individuals to have the opportunity to race. And I think that as it gets more and more expensive for younger children to get into karting and such, we're going to start seeing more drivers struggle to get out of the junior series and into the full-time series, just because it's just so fucking expensive. And it's not like, oh yeah, it's just very expensive. Got to get that second job. It's like second mortgage, third mortgage on your house expensive just to even have to chase this dream if you don't have the means. And that just sucks for the drivers that may be really fucking good, but don't have the opportunity to be able to showcase those talents. And I really do think that IndyCar has an opportunity to roll out a opportunity pipeline to be able to have drivers who don't have the means but have the talent to be able to go and race and do that. And It just sucks. It really just sucks because I'm going to see a lot of drivers that I love and adore that I've been following for the last couple of years on Indy Next that are just going to kind of like go and do other things. And I'll keep track of what they're doing, but they could have probably been amazing in IndyCar. But someone else with a bigger fund and bigger sponsorship took their place. And I don't think it sucks. It's racing. I know. The keyboard warriors are already being like, that's racing, suck it up, Buttercup. I get that. But also, this is why some people just don't even try because they know they're not going to be able to make it that far because of funding. And they might be the next Alex Palou, next Scott Dixon, next Lewis Hamilton, right? And that just sucks. It just sucks real bad. So we'll see what happens in Indy Next with the championship. It's the closest championship we got in IndyCar, basically. So I'm going to keep on watching that shit. And we'll keep an eye on silly season and see how this new race in Canada goes. We're no longer in downtown Toronto. We're in the suburbs of Toronto and Markham. And it's, James Hinchcliffe's home race. So it's going to be very exciting. He's probably going to have lots of moments, lots of, things to be said about home race and, the James land. And damn, I want a beaver tail so bad. Just send me a beaver tail, James. Please. Just want one. I never had one, and I just see them, and I'm like, damn, those beaver tails look sick. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to me yap about basically just complaining over the last 45 minutes. I really do appreciate it. We'll be back next week talking a little bit about Canada and then preparing for the DC race. I will say here, and I will probably do an update as well in the next week's episode, there will not be an episode following the race in DC. We will not be covering that race just because I will be on holiday with my husband celebrating some of our friends getting married. So there won't be an episode that week, but we definitely will talk about Canada. And then when we're back, we're going to talk about any news or updates that have happened, and then we'll kick it off with the doubleheader in Milwaukee, and then we'll go to Laguna Seca. So I'm definitely going to remind everyone next week, but just wanted to preface that here that there won't be an episode the week following the DC race. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. I really appreciate it. If you want to keep track of what's happening in Lap It Like It's Hot's universe, please follow us on socials at Lap It Like It's Hot. And you can listen to all of our podcasts on your podcast preference app through YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And, all of the engagement gets our name out to more listeners like you. So if you can please like, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, share with your motorsport friends and family. We really appreciate it. And just want to say thank you for listening. We really appreciate all of our listeners and can't wait to see what is next. So have a great rest of your week, everyone, and we'll see you soon.